So this Saturday, October 26th, Ilia Matador Topuria versus Max Holloway, finally happening. This is honestly one of the most anticipated fights of the year, stylistically and just excitement wise. I think there's no way this fight's going to be boring. Just a little disclaimer, I do think if Ilia mixes in his takedowns, the fight would be way easier than expected. But with his ego involved, I know he's going to want to knock out Max Holloway. So his base is actually Greco-Roman and Jiu-Jitsu. He developed his striking, over time, and we've seen Max get taken down with body locks by Yair Rodriguez and Alexander Volkanovski. I don't think that both of them offensively are on the same level as Ilia. Granted, we all know Volkanovski has a great takedown defense and his anti-grappling is very good, but offensively he's not the best, and he was still able to exploit Holloway's game. So one aspect that's getting overlooked is the fight is at 145. Max Holloway had his best performance to date at 155 against Justin Gaethje, and I think it's overshadowing a lot of things, particularly the weight cut. He bulked the biggest he has in his career. He put on a lot of muscle mass to go to 155. He looked good at the way he looked rejuvenated, in my opinion. We saw the result. We have to remember that this fight is at 145. He's been at 145 since he was about 20 years old in the UFC. We've seen time and time again, the weigh-in, he looks pretty rough. And he walks around relatively big. So I think him adding that muscle mass and then cutting right back down is going to be a little bad for him. It's going to deplete him, in my opinion. And that is a big factor. Although he's been at the weight for a while, it's not the best, to flop back and forth, especially after you just went to 155. I think that's going to do a little something to his body. We've seen it in the Kevin Iole interview recently. He looked kind of rough. And then he had another interview with, I believe the reporter's name is Damon Martin or something. To me, he just sounds like he doesn't really have too much energy. And honestly, it's kind of reminding me a little of that Ortega camp when the UFC was still on Fox and Bisping kind of pointed out that he looked bad.
Don't be offended when I say this, but you look like you just got out of bed. Are you tired? What's going on? How's the weight cut? Are you drained? I mean, you look a little sleepy.
I'm good, man. I'm good. A little bit tired. They got me doing a bunch of media stuff, but I'll be fine, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to go out there and do that.
Good to know. As I say, no offense, but you just look like, you're ready to fall asleep on me there.
But I'm sure in your career, you're not sitting at home like, hey, let me look at my highlights. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know you appreciate.
I just don't think he looks that good. And I've been saying that, him packing on that mass is just very bad to come right back down. He needs more time, to work his body back down to 145. And it hasn't been that long since UFC 300. So ultimately, I think that's a big factor. But besides all that, besides the weight cut bullshit, I want to get into the striking. So we know that Max Holloway is a high volume, high octane, attrition fighter that usually melts you. His last two bouts have been one punch KOs, but you have to take it with a little grain of salt because it was TKZ. And TKZ at this point is very weathered. His chin is not the same. Even before the knockdown came, Max was dropping him with the step-in jab and just pop shots were hurting him. So the Justin Gaethje KO was very impressive, nevertheless. But even him, I don't think he has the greatest chin. The KO was badass. It was one of the best moments in the UFC. But I actually picked Max Holloway by fourth round KO on Tapology. So I just have never been a big believer in Justin Gaethje. I think although he has improved his game and he's a little more calculated, I still think he makes a lot of technical errors. Slapping his hooks and he's very open. He's a very open fighter. That's how I would describe him, honestly. But the first route I could see, Ilia Topuria taking is, of course, the leg kicks. We all know that Max Holloway is very heavy on the front foot. He does have ability to switch stances, but it usually comes when he's on the front foot. When he's on the back foot, he'll stay in orthodox. So I do think that Ilia Topuria could chop at the leg. Invest early to Max Holloway's base. I don't think it would be a bad idea. It could pay off in the later rounds. You don't know. Max Holloway is very durable, and we haven't seen, the calf kicks really affect him too much. I think the most we've seen the calf kick affect him was maybe in the Yair fight because he started shooting takedowns. Honestly, I really didn't like Max Holloway's last few years at 145, his performances. The TKZ fight, in my opinion, was very alarming. TKZ is not the same guy that he was when, he knocked out Renato Moicano. He doesn't have that speed anymore. His footwork is... He never had like the greatest footwork, but he was more, but he was more quick to the step, and he has bad knees. He's wearing the knee brace. I just think at this point, TKZ is not the same guy. He was finding the left hand very frequently on Max Holloway, and he kind of took a page out of Volk's book, fading with the right hand, stepping in with the left hand or the left hook, left straight. really any kind of variation of punch with his left hand he was pinging Max Holloway with. The Arnold Allen fight, granted, Arnold Allen is a southpaw, so it's a different stance. He was also finding the mark of Max Holloway frequently. I actually thought the fight was a little closer than the scorecards showed, but and then also the Volkanovski fight, the third fight, I did not like that performance, and I've been noticing that at 145. If you watch those fights, you could tell that Max Holloway is kind of diminished at 145. I don't think he's as bouncy, as energetic as he was against Justin Gaethje. Another aspect on the feet that I see Topuria implementing is body shots. No one goes to Max Holloway's body, and I do think that, like I've been saying the whole video, the weight cut, those body shots could add up. And Ilia Topuria is one of the best body punchers in MMA right now, including Max Holloway himself. But I do think once he puts Max Holloway on the back foot, Max keeps his head on the center line, and most times he doesn't really get off or take angles. He has the ability to do that. He has the ability to slip punches, but he doesn't really ever do it. So I think Topuria could slip those straights, rip to the body similar to Damon Jackson, or pop the jab and then throw it straight to the body right off the jab. That's definitely another investment that I see Topuria, implementing. So the big thing for me is Max Holloway keeps his head on the center line mostly at all times. That lines up the overhand for Ilia Topuria. We've seen with Arnold Allen in a different stance. We've seen with Calvin Kattar, even in the Calvin Kattar fight, right? We remember him 50-45 in Calvin Kattar. But on the rewatch, you can see that actually Calvin Kattar had a lot of success in the mid-rounds when he was going forward on Max Holloway. Volkanovski as well. These guys lead with the left hook, and then they follow with the right overhand. The left hook freezes Max Holloway, keeps his head on the center line, and they're able to land the right overhand or right hand in general. I think Ilia Topuria also could find home for that. The overhand is Topuria's best punch, and I think if he lands a flush overhand on Holloway, he's going to mollywop the fuck at his ace. Nah, he probably won't one-shot KO him. If he does, that'd be crazy. Like, if he one-shot KOs Max Holloway, bro, we might as well put him in the pound-for-pound number one. But no, that would be absolutely insane. If the KO comes, I actually see a third or fourth round KO after Max Holloway takes a beating, kind of accumulation. Also, I forgot to mention that Topuria has one of the best ring cutting abilities in MMA. You could tell he's analyzing these guys' movements side to side, seeing which angle they take, seeing their traits, like he did against Volkanovski. He had Volkanovski on the back foot, and he was able to cut the cage off continuously and analyze on the movements and the angles that Volkanovski liked going to, and was able to actually capitalize on Volkanovski for that as well. And most of the time when he retreats, like I said, he has the ability to slip and do things. He has good head movement when he shows it, but for the most part, he keeps his head on the center line, and sometimes it seems like he freezes up. He moves very linear, or he moves in straight lines. He doesn't usually take angles, and I can see Topuria actually stepping off, taking an angle, and maybe following through with the right hand. I believe this is the first boxer that Max Holloway has faced where he's outgunned. Besides Dustin Poirier, I just think Topuria brings a whole new element to MMA when it comes to the boxing realm. He said time and time again that he's very influenced by a pound-for-pound boxer, Canelo Alvarez. You could tell in his movement, he's always bobbing his head side to side, getting his head off the center line. We saw in the Volkanovski fight, Volkanovski has one of the best jabs in MMA. And there was a lot of moments where Topuria was slipping the jabs, coming back with the right hand over the jab. Yeah, he's shown great ability to slip punches. And I really think that's a good thing going for him against Max Holloway, the taller fighter that really prefers straight punches. I'm not saying that Max Holloway, is outgunned here. Max Holloway is an all-time great. I just think the weight cut is a big factor for me. And Topuria is not a fighter that you play with. Max Holloway has a tendency to throw the straight punch to the body, and I think it's a beautiful punch. I don't understand why a lot of MMA fighters don't implement it, but that straight shot to the body is one of the best punches you could throw, and Max Holloway does it beautifully. But sometimes he doesn't lead with a jab. He'll throw the straight hand to the body naked, not disguised. If Ilia is able to time the uppercut or a left hook, TKZ actually was looking to counter it, but he was a little too slow on the mark, and he barely whiffed on a couple of the big punches he tried to counter. Holloway was also doing that with Justin Gaethje, but there again, Justin Gaethje doesn't have that timing to counter it, in my opinion. So that's another opening that I see on Max Holloway that maybe Ilia could, look for. For Max Holloway, he's just going to have to be the same Max Holloway. It is what it is. Nah, he's just going to have to be very volume-oriented. He's just going to have to pick it Topuria's high guard, invest to the body, pop his jab out, even if it's not hitting him, just touch the high guard, and just stay at bay for the first 3 rounds. There's a misconception that Topuria has, some bad cardio. I don't think he has bad cardio, but also I don't think he has some next level cardio. The big thing is going to be if he's on the front foot. If Max Holloway allows Topuria to be on the front foot for the first 3 rounds, he's not going to gas. But if Max Holloway gives him resistance, puts him on the back foot at times, I think that's when you're going to see Topuria gas, because when a guy is on his front foot fighting at his own pace, he's most likely not going to gas. But if you give him resistance and he's fighting at your pace, I think that's when you see guys gas. So if Max Holloway just pop shots and just stays at bay, doesn't get emotional, I think he can have some success in the later rounds possibly. But I see the fight starting fast. These guys don't like each other. They both have big egos. You know Ilia Topuria, you know Max Holloway. That'd be crazy if Topuria points to the ground in the first 10 seconds like he's been saying, and they start slugging it out for a few 50-50 exchanges. But it probably is going to start fast, just not like that. I see Topuria being on the front foot, pressuring Max Holloway, ripping to the body, and making Max Holloway very cautious. I just see Max Holloway crashing into a lot of things, and I also think on the back foot he's very vulnerable too, because Topuria has good pull counters, gets slip. I just think he's a bad style for Max Holloway. That's my thing. And also the dimensions of Ilia Topuria, small, stocky guys like Volkanovski, similar to Edgar. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm 0-3 right now for my prediction videos. I have no idea what's going on, but I see Topuria winning. If I'm wrong on this, I'm literally just gonna stop making prediction videos. But overall, I just think this is gonna be the moment where like we realize that this guy's the next big star. You know, he's the next evolution. I'm not even glazing right now, bro. I'm just giving a logical prediction. If this fight was at 155, I would lean Max Holloway's way, honestly. But this is at 145. We have to remember that. I wouldn't be surprised, like I said in the beginning, if Ilia does implement some wrestling and grappling. If he subs Max Holloway, that'd be crazy as well. But the KO is the thing that's going to skyrocket him to a superstar level. The UFC doesn't have Sean O'Malley anymore. He just got dominated. Hamza, even though he's exciting and a superstar, he barely fights. So this is the next big guy that the UFC has.
First 10 seconds, you love that. You get tired every time. Relax.
I get tired. I
Calm
get
down,
tired.
brother. Calm
I
down.
get tired of knocking people
2
out.
weeks. We got 2 more weeks.
I get tired of knocking people out.